Hi guys. Well, it's been 3 years since your previous full-length album, but you've released many EPs also. What is actually the starting point for this album? Can you pinpoint a song or maybe something that happened that you said, well, this is the starting point?
Good question.
Destiny, maybe? Although it's of course also on Hunter's Moon.
Did we start with Master of Destiny? It was one of the first ones, I think, yeah. So like 2 years ago, something like that, yeah.
And what made this song for you the starting point? What was so special about it?
It was one of the first songs we finished.
Yeah, but it was also, I feel like it was also very, very uncommon. Because it wasn't the very first, I think. I think we had some ideas flying back and forth before that. But it was a very odd one, and when you finish, I feel like when you finish such an unusual track, that forms a nice starting ground for like a new project.
Can you describe what you mean with an odd one for you, for yourself?
There were, the structure is different than a lot of songs. It's not your average verse, chorus, verse song. I was immediately very drawn to the orchestrations that you wrote, and they were very inviting to do a lot of vocal stuff on, like a big vocal arrangement. So it felt immediately like something that was a connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
For you too?
No, I experienced it differently because
That's all right.
I kind of wrote the instrumental part, and then we write with the three of us, and one of us comes with an idea. In this case, it was my idea. I came to them. So for me, it was more like, I wrote something. Oh, what do we actually have here? So when you make it, you don't really, at least I don't really realize that. Because for me it's kind of, I'm just playing around and I'm writing a theme, and that's what I kind of always do when I start, and in this case it was the same. And then I took it to Charlotte and Guus, and we tinkered on that. Then I remember I took it back and worked on the verse. That was like the string part, and then Charlotte came she worked on it at home, and she came with the vocal lines. And when I heard it for the first time, I was like, what are we doing now? Oh, that's interesting. Because I first envisioned that part not with vocals on it, but it was for me the theme part.
Sorry.
And no, there's absolutely no sorry. Actually, it's brilliant. So it was a really nice surprise. What is she doing now? Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's always when you work with a team of people who also write individually. Like, you never know which ideas are going to click with the other people as well.
No, exactly.
And there are still ideas from kind of all of our groups of song ideas where I feel like that's so strange that we never got that one to work, or it's always a surprise to see which ones go full-fledged and which ones stay like an idea on
and it's funny because people also ask us, so which songs are on the shelf, but we don't really have that, because our ideas either evolve into a song or they don't, and if they don't, then they're not there.
But can it be that sometimes ideas evolve into a song maybe after 5 or 10 years? Did you go back to certain ideas? Or?
We do have some ideas where there was one that was called Knowledge is King that we started on either the album before this or even before that. And it's a very interesting verse, but we never figured out what to do after that.
No, because you get stuck on something, and so sometimes you dig something up. I actually mostly do that. Come to the guys and say, hey, Shall we try this one more time and look at it from another angle?
Yeah.
But it rarely works.
Okay.
Also, often you're not in the same place where, we try to work like organically and just to go where the inspiration goes, and often you're just not in the same place as you were 5 years ago. So
That's true.
sometimes, yeah.
I wrote down lyrics from each song. For this time, I wrote down, I am the dreamer, I roll the dice, I'm alive, my hands aren't tied. What was the theme for this song? Because there are certain themes throughout the album.
Yeah, Masters of Destiny is actually about the question whether you are the master of your own destiny. And you picked a part of the lyrics where the protagonist tells themselves that they are. But there is also a part in the lyrics where they say that they are not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you could say that it's two different voices, but I think that there are two different voices inside of one person, asking whether we are or whether we are not completely in charge of our own destiny. And it's an interesting question.
What do you think?
No, you're not. You can make all the choices that you want to make, but you cannot control everything around you, and everything around you does influence you. So it's of course your own responsibility, and up until a great extent you can do what you think is right, but there will always be factors around you that you can't control, and if you feel like you can control them, I think that's going to lead to frustration, because other people or other things or the weather might still ruin all of your plans. But it is a question that's interesting enough to me to write both sides of the question.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, of course this or of course that. It is of course
Gray.
interesting. There's a big gray area.
Now, for example, when you wrote this song music-wise, then when she came back with a vocal line upon something that you didn't have in your head, that's something that because you're open to it. I mean, that also changes the way that you wrote the song.
In making music, you have to be receptive for when you work with a team.
And it's refreshing as well. And it's my role to be the producer, so to say. So I also kind of steer the direction a little bit. And sometimes I call, this doesn't sound Delain, or that does sound Delain. And then sometimes people ask me, well, what is that then?
Yeah.
So I say, but to me it's really distinct.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really clear. But it makes it really refreshing, because if I get surprised, then it contributes and adds and complements to what you're making.
So this was 2 years ago, this song. When it actually started, when did the theme, I mean the album title, Apocalypse and Chill, when did you start working around with this album title?
It always feels right to me to start thinking about album titles when there is a solid number of tracks of which that are going to make it to the album. So so far I haven't had an album title ready before we started writing, and then we wrote everything around that or something. That's not how it generally works for Delain.
No, but there are certain songs that deal with apocalypse.
Yeah. So there were, I think, about 7 songs were definite at the time I looked at them, and there were some songs that were very specifically dystopian, apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic, and then the other ones were kind of the opposite, where they are love songs and songs about nostalgia and much more personal. And I thought that was a nice parallel with the world today in capital letters, so to speak, where if you open a newspaper it looks like the world's on fire, and if you open your social media it looks like everyone's having the most perfect lives, and you kind of wonder how these two worlds can exist at the same time. And then, since it is a current topic, I thought Apocalypse and Chill as a wordplay on Netflix and chill was nice.
Yeah.
But it's indeed funny. It's my experience with our album so far that indeed there are a couple songs and then a theme kind of floats to the surface.
Yeah.
Say, hey, wait a minute, this is the this is the binding factor.
Yeah.
And then evolving on that.
I'm always worried to come up with a title too fast, because then it shouldn't be. Well, it can be if you're doing like a really like a concept album or something, but I feel like it shouldn't be fabricated. This title fits the tracks very well, but it's not forcing the album in any direction.
And
it's the other way around.
And that's also funny, because sometimes that works on my nerve, because then I tell Charlotte, hey, why wait so long for the theme? Because the time frame kind of really, we need to have something, and why not do it the other way around? But that's just not how it goes.
Is it something, because when you dealt with the theme of apocalypse, what kind of place were you in yourself? Was it something that worried you, or
besides the world being on fire?
No. Is it something that really bothers you? You think, well, we have to raise a voice, or we have to write about this, or it's just from the sidelines that you
It doesn't really go like this. Of course, it does bother me, and it does worry me, and it does kind of factor in the choices that you make on a day-to-day basis.
It's not really judging.
But yeah, there is no intention of let's write this so that people will fill in the blank. But it's like when I worry about this, like for example, I have very, very vivid dreams, and then those things get very dystopian, and then you write about those kind of things. So it works more on a subconscious level than on a let's tell everyone what they're supposed to do or that they are supposed to worry.
Yeah.
And I also think if you do that, you're underestimating your listeners. Because people can think for themselves.
No, there's one thing. Did you have a dream with the song "Let's Dance"?
The Doomsday Rave.
Yeah.
No. Creatures. I remember very vividly that was like a landscape and little. But Let's Dance was just the idea of a Doomsday Rave that was very funny to me.
Okay, and the creators, our final melody, our final melody is slowly dying with the light.
Yeah, isn't that poetic?
It is. No, but is it something that you say? Well, you had a vivid dream. So what was the image that you envisioned?
I envisioned like a broken city, and there was a creature, and I don't remember if it was like a little child or maybe something different, and it was collecting pieces from its past, like the city was blown up, and it was like collecting pieces of photographs of pieces of furniture from its own home and trying to piece those things back together. It had like a little den where it tried to piece it back together, and it was so sad to me. And I thought that it feels like a movie, it's like, but yeah, something like that.
So were those songs written earlier in the recording process? I mean, the apocalypse songs?
I think it's a mixture, right?
Let's Dance was there when,
No, it's really a mixture, because some songs we also finished later on.
Yeah, and it's also sometimes, for example, if a song is not finished, but it has one line, like in Let's Dance, for example, the Let's Dance, like Ants in the Hellfire, that was there.
To Live Is To Die Too.
And To Live Is To Die Too, and then if I know, like, I'm going to keep these lines and that's what it's going to be about, then the song doesn't need to be finished to know what the vibe of the song is or what the song is going to be about.
But it's funny, because when we write also the songs with phrases. So we just say gibberish.
Catchphrases.
And sometimes not even catchphrases, sometimes real gibberish. And then it comes later. And I remember To Live Is To Die, I thought, okay, we're gonna change it into something else later on. And I think was also your
idea to change it. Yeah.
Oh, it was your idea to change it, because mine it was not.
Okay.
No, it was too. Yeah, it was too, exactly. And then later on it was not.
Yeah.
And now it makes total sense.
Yeah. Now I thought of changing it because the sentence has been used so many times, And I thought, yeah, okay, it sounds great, but I'm sure that we can come up with something else that sounds just as great. But then the lyrics around it made so much sense with To Live Is To Die, and it just sounded right. And at one point, you know, it's also like, are you then going to change it just because it has been sung before? Are we adding something with this song that has that in the words? As long as the answer is yes to that, then sometimes you shouldn't fix what isn't broken.
That's sometimes also the fascinating about writing, that sometimes it steers you instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
And it keeps things interesting.
Interesting. It's because you released your first album 14 years ago. What for you? What does the songwriting? What does it still bring to you? What keeps it fresh after all these years and after recording many albums?
Every time again, it's just that you have the feeling. It's very pure to me. That it touches you. What is it that touches you? I don't know. That's the magic about music, I think. And also if I would write a song now, which I have written 14 years ago, I could not write the same thing.
Yeah. So you evolve.
You change. Yeah. And like every human being changes throughout their lives, and that also translates in the stuff you write. And I find the whole process of songwriting magic. And also in interviews I always say, where the river of creativity leads us, and just go with the river. And everything is there already. You just have to grab it.
Yeah.
And
but you have to know how to grab it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big trick. Yeah. And sometimes you grab something surprising, build on that. And
What was the last question? What was something that you grabbed that really surprised you?
For me, I have to think of Ghost House Heart, which is the ballad on the album. I remember that at that point, because in the best cases, the songwriting is like that, you know, going from inspiration and seeing where it guides you. But sometimes when you're finishing an album, there is songs that you have to finish. There's puzzles that you have to solve. And those can be like more craft than inspiration sometimes. And I remember we had been puzzling on this one song for a very long time, and we were getting to the point of being kind of frustrated. And Guus, our writing partner, he said, you know, Martijn, just take your most beautiful piano sound, and Charlotte, just sit down behind the microphone and just, you know, do whatever for a while. And we sat down jamming and we spontaneously did what I think at least the first half of Ghost House Heart we took out of those recordings.
Yes.
And that was one of the most unfabricated things, you know. And that always feels like a bit of a cadeautje. When
present.
When you get one of these things that just happen.
We still had to finish that puzzle later on.
Exactly.
Which eventually I was puzzling with it, and but this is just it.
Yeah.
And send it over to Charlotte and Guus, and I said, this is it. Yeah. And but it's indeed just playing around, singing, and together, and it was there. Yeah. And that's nice.
What are your ambitions for you with Delain? I mean, is it playing in more countries or making more songs, better songs, other songs? What are your ambitions?
For me personally, it's just writing more stuff. Just writing more music, making something beautiful, I hope, and that we can surprise each other with our input in each other's material. I write something and she does something with it and I think, whoa, or I can do it the other way around. I think that's really, that can be an ambition over and over again, I think.
I think so too. I think the creative process has always been very rewarding for the both of us, and I do really like performing live as well, but the last couple of years have been a lot, so it's I would say that's also an ambition to find like a really good balance in that.
Actually, it's two jobs you have.
Yeah.
Because playing live is such a completely different animal than creating music. Some people also only perform and don't create music. Other people do that, and so it's two different jobs. And I also like playing live. If it's not too much, then I like it. And then circumstances are good to make a nice show and experience music with your audience. I think that's a beautiful thing. But doing 7-week tours in a row and then start the next tour, no thank you. I don't like that.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.